Hey, welcome to Teaching for the Culture. And this is your host, Bianca Goolsby. And I'm here this afternoon with some fabulous educators around the Tampa Bay area to discuss their feelings about the reopening of schools, how they feel in this moment. And so the episode is called In the Trenches. I have different educators from all walks of life with different roles and responsibilities and duties. And it's basically a platform to hear their voice and to amplify their voices during this time. So I want to go ahead and get started with just asking you guys the first question. And when you guys answer the question, just, introduce and say your name, and you're free to share whatever you want to share. Again, this is just to amplify your voices. But I want to know during this time, how do you feel? I'll just start there emotionally. Like, how do you feel right now during this time? And whoever wants to start, they can get started.
I guess I'll start. I don't want to jump the gun here. My name is Justin Combs. I teach 11th grade U.S. history at Hillsborough High School. And I I feel almost helpless and voiceless. The last board meeting when the board just completely took a curveball and didn't take in consideration anything that the teachers were asking for, with the cases going up and the safety concerns. It just, to watch the board pass that plan with such just such ease. There was literally 2 people that voted it down. Everybody else said, yes, absolutely, this is the plan we're going to do. And so it was, I just, to feel that powerless, I never want to feel like that ever again as an educator. Like, it hit really hard. So yeah.
And I'll go ahead and jump in here. My name is April Cobb, and familiar face on Teacher for the Culture, because we have and continue to have a passion for just children in general. But now I'm speaking from a perspective just about myself and my colleagues. I am a 22-year vet teacher here in Hillsborough County. I'm over at Jennings Middle School, home of the Jaguars. And I will say that I have never felt so confused, disoriented, unknowing about a job that I have done for such a long time, to where it created such anxiety for myself, health issues for my colleagues. Many of them are going through having to have went to the doctor so much in the past couple of weeks for blood pressure medication, heart medicines, anxiety, depression. And as a CTA rep, a lot of them contact me, assuming that I have answers to the magical question of what is the plan. And it's so disheartening that board members sat in a position and in a room last week and were acting as though information was brand new to them about what has been a conversation for months now. Mm-hmm. I felt so hopeless, to where I had to make a conscious decision to say, stop answering the phone, because how can you provide answers as it relates to a plan when there is no plan? So I had to just stop answering the calls.
Absolutely. I'm Andrea Williams. I'm going to jump in here real quick. And I am a school counselor, so my perspective is very different from my colleagues, but the same narrative exists. What I hear my colleagues, as well as myself, is we're dealing with trauma ourselves. Because there is no plan, and because we're confused, we're anxious. A lot of people have mentioned anxiety. We're stressing out. People are sobbing, crying. It's trauma. And then we're like depleted. So we're entering a plan where we're really, like April said, there's no plan, and we're dealing with trauma. We're going to have to deal with kids that are coming back with trauma. And how can we cope? How can we ourselves cope and get the time that we need to get some clarity, some direction? Because there is none. We're just flying by the seat of our pants, that I feel, because every email, every decision is at the last moment. It's really no excuse that educators should be getting emails at 10 o'clock at night telling them the instructions for the next day, when most of us have to be up 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning in order to get to our school sites.
Yeah. And you touched on something that is really impactful, and that is trauma. And so there's a lot of educators that have a uncertainty, and they have anxiety and depression and hopelessness and all of the feelings that you guys are explaining and talking about today. And it's something that it is very real. And then the question is, how can educators be the most effective educators when they are feeling this way because of the environment that they're being subjected to? And how can they really move and impact our children if they are feeling like their voice doesn't matter? And so I just want to just sit in that moment to just say that, so that people can really understand that we're not talking about let's kids go to school so teachers can babysit. This is trauma. This is their life. This is their feelings, and they are valuable. Their voice matters. And the part that gets me is when you have politicians and when you have people that are not in the trenches and they're making decisions on the collective front, but they have not experienced what educators have experienced, and therefore they are coming at a decision with limited knowledge. And this is why it's so important. Like, school board races are important. We need to make sure we have educators that's on the board that have that perspective, to have that feeling. So my next question is, what can school districts do, or what can the overall public do to really hear you guys out? Like, what is something that you would like people to understand if they're watching this broadcast?
I think I would want people to actually start to listen. I don't understand, and I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox here. But I've never understood why teachers are not seen as the experts of what happens in a classroom. If you go to any other field in this country, any other field, law, medic, whatever, we go to the professionals in that field and we value their input, because we know that they're the ones that are trained and certified and are in the trenches of that field and know exactly what it means to be a worker in that field. So it is always beyond my state of comprehension that with schools, why aren't we the ones that are the very first point of contact of what is the best practices to handle any issue in education? Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. And to the point of, and not educators that are going to agree with the calamity that has been brought forth up until this point. Now, we don't want educators that are, sought out that's just going to say, yes, I agree. Yes, that works. Yes, 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 yes. Because in the end, that's only harming the majority. They represent the minority. You can't agree with everything that has been put forth at this point as it relates to the plan that we have been given. And I think that when individuals from the outside looking in as it relates to education, they think asking questions of the parents is the solution that drives what teachers are going to do. That doesn't make any sense. If I'm going to have heart surgery, I don't go out in the community and start asking the people in the community, even if they were heart patients, oh, how did you like that? Did you think your heart was better after the fact? What would you do differently? No, I would want to talk to the heart surgeons, and then maybe get some feedback from the individuals that went under the knife with them. At this point, we have no voice, to a point of we're the largest employer in the district.
We're one of the
How can we not be having a employer in the district? How can we not be seeking out a survey that literally speaks to the questions or the concerns that we have, not put together verbiage that is just going to be in line with your agenda, because we're all hearing the same sounds of, we don't feel safe. Yes, some got to go back to work. I get that. It's a financial crisis. I get that. But you cannot sacrifice lives because of that.
Right.
You just can't do it.
Right.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just trying, like, we're not, just to add to that, like, we're not responsible for the economy. It is not our job to get the economy moving. It is our job to educate children, right? And to develop them into individual citizens that can process and use their brain. It is not my job to get you back to work.
Right. And I think what I also want people to know about educators is I want to diminish this narrative that's going around that we don't want to be back in the classroom, that we don't want to be back with our students, that we choose to be online because it's easier. And online is not easier. So just disrupt that narrative right there. Being online is hard for us as well. But like my colleagues have mentioned, we want to be safe, and we are the experts of what goes on in classrooms, in schools, and how those processes work. We don't sit in boardrooms or leadership teams and all this to talk about policies and procedures in schools, not to be the expert on what goes on in schools and how safety protocols and all of these questions and outliers of questions, and we don't have answers to because nobody is addressing them.
Right.
So as a educator, and some of you have your own children that, you know, you have to make a decision for as a parent. And so if you are willing to share, how has that experience been dealing with being a educator to care for all the children that you love, but then also trying to make sure that your own babies are taken care of? And how does this all tie in to how you feel?
Well, you know, I have the infamous 2-pack, which is the Colonel's paparazzi twins. Shameless plug there. For me, being that they are twins, one of them, I literally would be like, okay, I would send him back. That's the one that has no health issues at all. He is a iron steel child. Like, he probably only had the common cold, and he's 10 years old, probably 2 to 3 times out of his life. Now, on the other end, I have one that has very weak immune system, very weak. He's acquired pneumonia several times, you know, during the school year, have to be out of school at least up to 7 to 10 days at a time. And then there's also with him having asthma, respiratory issues, allergies, you name it. Like, he's the very fragile child. So therefore, I can't even risk sending one of them, because he could bring back home something that could kill his brother. He literally could, because listen, y'all know I don't sugarcoat nothing. Hillsborough County Public Schools, there are many classrooms are just filthy. They're filthy. And in elementary, I get it. I know that the kids are going to take their jackets. The whole side of their jacket is going to be full of snot. I just seen the kids just rub their whole nose around it. And that's just what little ones do. I get that. But keep in mind, that's something that we could visibly see. How much of it is ending up on the desk, on their hands, in their on their pencils, the stuff that they're sharing. You just name it, it's just happening. So sending one to school and bringing back all of those germs that he acquired over the day, because his jacket be full of stuff too. I will just say that. And with me having so many underlying health issues without going into depth, and my uncle that I caretake for, he also has underlying health issues. I just can't risk it. I can't risk it. And my students, they know without a doubt, Ms. Cobb cares about them. I go above and beyond for my families, even during the summer, reaching out, going over there, dropping off stuff, picking up things. But I was able to control my environment, and it was a hand stuff out the window of whatever it is that they needed. But I cannot control the cleanliness or the sanitary practices that happen at a large school. I just can't control that. And I shouldn't be asked to do that.
Right, I agree. And my daughter is 4, and so she would be entering VPK this fall. And it's been my dream as a parent to have my child at my school. And the neat thing about my school and my story is my husband and I met there. So it's been a dream, but I cannot in good conscience send my 4-year-old who was a premature baby to an environment that I know may not be safe, because we don't have enough supplies. We are in a deficit. There's no plan. I can't. As a parent, I can't. I just can't. And I will, like Ms. Cobb said, I will go above and beyond for my students and advocate for them and be there for them. But with my own child, I just prefer that. I don't know if I can cross that bounds.
Yeah. I don't have children myself, but I did speak with one of my coworkers prior to this to see if she had any concerns. And she herself is a single mother, and she's a mother of 2. And so her concern is, if we go back and she gets sick, she asked, what am I supposed to do? She's like, I have no one else. Like, it's my kids have me. And if something happens to me because we're being forced to go back to school, like it's going to devastate her family.
And that right there alone, who in their right, and could have that on their conscience, that I am forcing a single mother to put her entire family at risk to fix a problem that in all actuality she can't fix. Because that's a realistic question. That's what you're saying to that mother.
Right.
Like I get, again, we are not, like you said already, Justin, the economy, fixing it is not our problem. I've never been a babysitter. That's not what activities, never. I teach math all day, every day. The kids probably got tired of it on many occasions when other classrooms had free day or whatever that looked like. So I just don't know how. And then let's go back a little bit. Then you put principals in that position, where you're going to talk about that probably, Bianca, where they're getting these lists to say, oh, you got chosen, and you could do e-learning, and you can, and da-da-da. You have principals that are sobbing about that situation, like losing sleep, weight, because they don't know what to say. And keep in mind, if no principal ever told you that was not their decision. That came from downtown, from HR. They did not make that decision. So I want everyone, whomever's watching, please know that your principals had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all.
Yeah. And it's disheartening, because the story that Justin shared is a story of so many educators that I talk to, where they are just at a loss. They just do not know what to do. Is, if I don't go to work, I lose everything that I work for. If I go to work, I lose everything that I work for. And there is no easy solution. And like I said, when I was interviewed on the news, there is no easy solution to this problem. But at the end of the day, we're talking about people and their life. There's a janitor that is, on the ventilator right now. And we have serious situations where children have been experiencing COVID during the summer. And we've been having cases of COVID during the grab and goes. And we've been having these things happen. And it's disheartening for the educators, because they're hearing narratives perpetuated that we have everything that we need. And we see pictures on social media of PPE that's staged. But then today I'm getting alerts saying we don't even have hand sanitizer at our school. We don't even have soap in our school. We don't even have, we have latex gloves, but I'm allergic to latex. Do we have any other options? And this is real life things that's happening. So my last question, and I definitely want to continue to have these segments. And if there's educators out here that want to make your voice heard, reach out to Teaching for the Culture. This is a platform to amplify voices of educators and our students that are often left behind. And we talk about the achievement gap, but the achievement gap is, I mean, we've been had this achievement gap if we look at the FSA data. So my question to you guys is, you know, for the people that's watching, and we have someone that actually joined, so let me add them in. Laura has joined us. So hey, Laura, how are you?
I am good. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good.
I didn't have to go to school today. We started from home today, so I'm not sharing in the acute trauma, but I'm feeling it.
Yeah. So I asked the participants at first, like, you know, how are you feeling with all of this stuff going on? Is there anything that you want to share?
So much. You know, there's a lot of disbelief, but you know, that's not getting me anywhere. So I have to if I'm going to turn on my camera, but just please excuse me. A lot of disbelief, but you know, I have to move out of that space because it's not going to get me anywhere. I just feel, you know, it's almost like Trump. You know, this has allowed people's true colors to be on display, and it's allowed us to see how they really feel about us and what's really important. And everybody kind of feels safe to be, well, I won't curse, but everybody feels safe to, I will curse, to just be an asshole. So, yeah, I'm disgusted.
So,
And
yeah.
Go ahead, Bianca.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I totally feel you, Miss Laura. I just think that when we put teachers at the forefront of every solution possible as it relates to education, the economy, trauma, caretaking for students with trauma, colleagues that's caretaking for one another with trauma, I just think that at some point you will stop to say, who's checking on the teacher? Has anyone checked on the teachers? Have we been asked at this point how we're feeling? We put on paper that we're asking those questions. Oh, there's trauma. There's mental health opportunities available if you need it. And go over there and call this number. You got to call another number and reach out to another person. And if they got opportunities and might have telehealth, but you got to pay for it. Like there's so many other underlying issues that derive out of the question, who's checking on the teacher? And in the end, I feel that we just have been thrown to the wolves. We're being mutilated, and we're supposed to just sit back and take it. We're not supposed to have any question about what's going on. We're not supposed to feel. We're not supposed to have feelings at all. We're just supposed to do what we're told. That's it.
And I want to add to that. I mean, not even just like our feelings aside, you know, if people don't want to care about our feelings, fine. But education is fundamental to any successful society. If people are not educated, your society doesn't progress. And so that's another thing that I've never been able to wrap my head around is why are we consistently thrown under the bus and treated like dirt in this society? Literally, we are the basis. We're the foundation. Nothing could grow without us. And so and not to get political, but when the president and our governor are cornering schools and pretty much telling them that you have to go back and you have to put your lives at risk or we're not going to give you funding. I mean, that's how can you live with yourself? How can you go to sleep knowing that you literally just said, okay, I'm going to put millions of children's lives at risk and millions of teachers' lives at risk because I feel I can't wrap my head around it. I don't understand the logic.
And the question with that is, if this plan that they have to stimulate the economy doesn't work and there is no money, which department's gonna get cut again? That has been traditionally been cut.
Education every time.
So it's either you do it and we're gonna try to make it work, or we don't do it, and it's just no easy solution here, because I'm trying to figure out where the money is going to come from. If we don't stimulate the economy, which is where they're going to get the funding for education, and the economy is still tanking, like it is tanking. There's so many people that have applied for unemployment, and there's people in the state of Florida that have applied for unemployment before spring break in March and have not seen a penny. So with that all being said, if we do not stimulate the economy, where will the money come from to satisfy paying FTE dollars and these allocations from Tallahassee that come from, DC? And those are the things that needs to be talked about, because again, this is dismantling public education,
right,
at its finest. So either you use teachers to do it, to try to move this agenda forward, or you don't do it and we're going to hold them hostage, because they're trying to figure out this plan of re-stimulating the economy. And like you said, Justin, it's not any of your responsibility to do that.
Educating our kids should never be an agenda. Like, it should never be a political move. Not like it should never be that. Yeah.
I think we've forgotten that it's a human right. I think that's what we've forgotten. It's a human right.
So I just want to open the platform for you guys to share whatever's on your heart for the people that's listening. There's a lot of people that's watching live, and let them hear your heart before we close. And I just is my plea for the people that are watching, for the people that will watch the replay. Listen to the teachers, listen to the educators, because their voice is powerful. And we have to move away from allowing other people to talk for our educators, who are the professionals. And we've done that systemically for years. There are studies that are done that, when women, they were traditionally educators, they suppress women, and they've done that historically. And this is why we have such a reduced amount of men that's in the profession. And so that's why I'm glad that you're here, Justin, because you offer a fresh perspective and you've been in the trenches, you know what it's like. And so I appreciate and value every single one of you that have taken the opportunity to share how you feel today. So just let the people know what's on your heart.
I'll jump in real quick and say that as a auntie of two young boys that they're finishing up their elementary elementary education path, I will say that if I don't feel comfortable sending my own children, even though I'm in that same situation of not having anywhere for my kids to kind of go to, any event that, I don't have a choice, I have to go figure something else out. I don't know what that other thing is, but I cannot put their lives on the line. So I just would say, if your child has underlying health issues, and by all means that you can keep them home, keep them home.
I guess I'll do my last bit. It was mentioned earlier, I believe Ms. Williams said it. There is this stigma that we don't want to go back to work. So I just want to reiterate her point there, that we do want to go to work. Education, most teachers, myself included, to us, it's not a job. It's not just somewhere I go to make a dollar. This is something that we're very passionate about, that most of us from a very young age, like we in our heart and soul knew that we were going to be educators, because God knows we didn't do it for the pay, right? You're not going to make millions off of this. So no teacher's trying to say your kid needs to stay at home so that we can't go to work. We want to educate your kids. Your kids are literally our life. And we want everything for them, all of the opportunities, all the successes that life can afford them. And we were literally going to do anything and everything in our power to help them achieve that. We can't do that if their health is at risk. We need to do it in a safe environment that ensures that they are going to be the happiest and healthiest that they can be, and that we are the happiest and healthiest that we are, because if we're sick, we can't be there for them. And literally the worst thing that you can do to a student is take their teacher out of that classroom. Nobody's going to know your student, your child better than that teacher and what your child needs and wants in that class. If you force us to go into that classroom and we get sick, your child is now stuck with a sub or is getting passed around to other teachers. So not only are you putting your kids' health at risk, now you're putting their education at risk. And that could cause so many detriments that could never be made up. So we need to make the smart decision. We need to go online. That's all I have to say.
What I want people to know is that educators feel trapped. In the hierarchy needs of Maslow, we are right there at safety. And if we're not mastering everything that we need, we can't be effective in our schools. I just feel, me personally, the amount of anxiety and confusion and depletion, maybe something will transpire between now and August 24th, but I think I speak for a lot of educators. I know that we don't feel ready. We just don't, and we feel trapped. And like Justin and my colleagues have mentioned, we do want to be back to school. We do. This isn't the back to school we are used to. Everything is different. It doesn't even feel like back to school to me. It just feels like a continuation of a pause from spring break. Which wasn't even a break from March to now. People think teachers and educators have been just chilling. No, we've been worried about this for a long time.
I think she's frozen a little bit. Laura, do you have any closing words?
I agree with everything everybody said. I feel like we're being forced to kind of state the obvious over and over again, because everything out there points to the fact that what they're asking us to do is not safe. It's not safe for us, and it's not safe for our kids. And somebody just needs to be smart about it.
Yeah. I just want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart for using your time today. You could have used it anywhere else, but you decided to hop on with Teaching for the Culture. And I thank you for using your voice. And for those of you that are watching and want to use your voice, I'm going to open the platform for anyone that wants to share their heart and how they feel, because we do need to amplify teachers and educators and support staff who have been working the front lines this entire time and how they feel, because their feelings are valued. And it matters. And I need people to pay attention to what's going on politically, and also what's happening with our educators who are struggling emotionally. And it's something where, how can we reach our children if our educators feel stuck and trapped? It's just things that people really have to pay attention to, and listen to the teachers, listen to the educators, and listen to the frontline workers that's saying, hey, we want to be in school, but this is not going to work this way. And I think that we can make it work by doing X, Y, and Z. And until that happens, it's going to be a constant political battle on what is going to be best for teachers, when we have seen systemically that we failed our educators, and we've also failed our children for years, especially here in America. So thank you for taking the opportunity, and thank you guys for tuning in to Teaching for the Culture. And until next time.